Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. So Zero Hedge has a piece, Russia's sanctions and the coming crackdown on Americans. I know a lot of people out there don't think that the Russia's sanctions have much to do with them, but I got news for you. If you like Trump, if you like anything that's not fitting the globalist agenda, why, my gosh, are they going to turn the screws on you here, and they're going to use Russia as the excuse. Dan McAdams writes, last week I wrote an article and did an interview explaining that in my reading of the new Russia sanctions bill just signed by President Trump, there's a measure opening the door to a U.S. government crackdown on some of the non-mainstream media. In particular, Section 221 of the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act would punish persons who are engaging in transactions with the intelligence or defense sectors of the government of the Russian Federation. Now, at first, one might think, this is reading too much into the text. However, as a 12-year Capitol Hill veteran bill reader, I can assure you that these bills are never written in a simple expository manner. Matter of fact, there's always a subtext. And in this case, we must consider the numerous instances where the Director of Central Intelligence and others, senior leadership in the U.S. intelligence community, have attempted to establish the idea that foreign news channels such as RT or Sputnik News are not First Amendment protected press, but rather tools of the Foreign Intelligence Organization. Now, you can see in the current atmosphere where anti-Russia hysteria has already spread like typhoid and how readily accepted such a notion would be so by many. The Reds are under our beds and the Ruskies have taken over the airwaves. Now, I don't think a crackdown will stop the Russian government-funded news organizations like RT and Sputnik. However, once the initial strike is made at the lowest hanging fruit, the second wave will target Russia-focused organizations not funded by governments, but that challenge the official U.S. government line that Russia is our number one enemy and its government must be overthrown. Popular private alternative websites like The Duran and Russia Insider will likely be next on the list for prosecution. Sound far-fetched? Think of it this way, because this is how the neocons think. If the Russian government and RT are opposed to sanctions, and you operate a website that also takes a line in opposition to Russia's sanctions, are you not doing the work of Russian intelligence? Are you not seeking to influence your readers in a manner that the Russian intelligence would want? Are you not engaging in transactions, even over our airwaves? And after this second wave, you can be sure that there'll be a push to move to other alternative media that have nothing to do with Russia, but that opposes U.S. interventionist foreign policy, like Zero Hedge, like the Daily Sheeple, SHTF Plan, Consortium News, Lou Rockwell. It's not crazy, folks. Don't forget, Dan writes, this war against us already started last year when the Washington Post ran a front-page article accusing all of us of being Russian agents. So, who's next? What would be next? I mean, do you read any of the alternative sites? Do you pass along articles that oppose U.S. sanctions policy towards Russia? Because if you do, then you are engaging in transactions, and you would be subject to sanctions as described in the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, which is now, by the way, the law of the land. So, I know a lot of people out there saying, well, that's taking it too far. This will never happen. The government would never compile, analyze, and target private news outlets just because they deviate from the official neocon Washington lie, right? They would never blanket surveil the masses and then use that information against you, right? Now, maybe not yet, or maybe not in your case. But some U.S. government-funded non-governmental organizations are already doing just that. The German Marshall Fund has less to do with Germany these days than it did when it was founded after World War II as a show of appreciation for the U.S. Marshall Fund. These days, it's mostly funded by the U.S. government, allied governments, especially like Russia-hating Baltics, neocon grant-making foundations, and, of course, the military-industrial complex. And through it, a strangely Soviet-sounding Alliance for Securing Democracy project has been launched. Something called Hamilton 68, a new tool to track Russian disinformation on Twitter. Now, this project monitors 600 Twitter accounts that the General Marshall Fund claims are, quote, accounts that are involved in promoting Russian influence and disinformation goals. Now, which accounts does this monitor? They don't say. How does it choose which ones to monitor? They don't tell us. And to what end? Frighteningly, they won't tell us. Now, isn't it ironic that something called the German Marshall Fund is bringing a Stasi-like type silence to alternative media and opinions in the United States? You know, the whole Marshall Plan, freeing Germany, da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, right. So, if you can't see that things are being set up, first, to have all this geopolitical noise to get everybody distracted, then, like Alan Greenspan says, bond bubble pops, economy goes into a tailspin, and then they got to clamp down on everybody that speaks out against the fix-it plan. And when the fix-it plan comes, nobody's going to like it. If you take a look at past countries that have gone through this, like Cyprus had a banking crisis, right? When all was said and done, a lot of people lost a lot of money because the banks just don't have it. You know, these banks practice what's called fractional reserve banking. Bring in $1, lend out 10. If an economic crisis were to occur and a run on the banks were to happen, what would be the outcome? You'd have bank holidays, just like the Great Depression. They'd be shut down for a while. Then they would open up and you could only take X amount of money. And then when they revalue the currency, they're going to revalue it to where it's only worth a fraction of what you used to have. And everybody has to eat doo-doo. Oh, except for the people that pulled the rug out from underneath you. See, those are the powers that shouldn't be. Those are the control freaks. They did that in the Great Depression too, where they started sending credit and credit and credit out like crazy, and people took out loans. They wanted to invest in the stock market because it was a surefire way. By God, there were no more depressions that were going to happen. And everybody, down to the grocery clerk, had stock in the stock market. And when they saw that the bubble had been inflated to the point where they just couldn't do it no mo, they popped that bubble. They pulled the rug out from everybody. All the little guys lost everything, but these guys got to sell in time and made millions upon millions of dollars, if not billions. You don't think that's going to happen again? And this is just one of the ways that they're going to go about controlling the masses. Oh, you don't like the fix-it plan? Well, you must be a Russian agent. I'm telling you, folks, it's happened before. The Red Scare. It can happen again. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Have a great day.